Okay, hey, the show goes on forever with tariffs hitting Chinese products to the U.S. and Huawei being banned from receiving official support from Google for Android. Apple is being sued over the rainbow rights holders for copyright infringement, and we have a new segment here on the show. We're gonna debut it with episode 100. That's called, in a fit of originality, Quick Takes. So that's all here tonight on the Mac to the Future. Go! Got it right this time. Livecast. Yeah. Oh. Rockin', man, it's rockin'. Okay, and I don't have a hat on, so everyone can see just how freaking bald I really am. We have all kinds of stuff for you here tonight on the 100th episode of the Mac to the Future Livecast, and it is going to be a train wreck as it usually is. I've completely rebuilt. Who is doing all that noise in the background? There is all kinds of shuffling noise. Who's that coming from? That's coming from Warren. Of course it is. Who else would it be coming from? Has to be. It just has to be. How are you, Warren? I have a new lower third for you, too. Here's your new lower third.
I like that one. Not your Guatemalan business.
It's none of your Guatemalan business. I know I didn't spell Guatemalan right. I'll fix that in post.
Couldn't tell you either. I'll try to stay perfectly still here in Guatemala. So I'm perfectly still in Guatemala.
Well, it's been what, 2 weeks? Because I don't think we didn't do a show last week because I fell asleep.
I was in Las Vegas, so that wouldn't work for me either. So.
But you know who it would have worked for? David Ginsburg. There he is, right there. Hello, Dave.
How you doing, everybody?
Oh, hey, Dave. You doing good?
We did it 2 weeks ago. It was just you and I.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But now we got the most of the crew back together, and I would like to still put out a welcome mat for any of the other admins in the well, that seems like it's off a little bit in the Mac to the Future. That went the wrong way.
I beg of you to help out.
Yeah,
doesn't even have to be doesn't even have to be an admin. Could be anybody.
Yeah, there's who could it be? Who could it be now?
We're not going to do. We'll do that offline. We'll talk bad about everybody and good about people. I'm not making enemies tonight. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's get right to it. We have the new quick takes, real quick stuff to talk about. There's a new MacBook Pro. Yeah, I know. We need theme music for some of this. There's a new MacBook Pro with a 6 to 8 core processor and yet another redesigned butterfly keyboard. Warren, so how long will it be before you get this one?
Well, unrelated to that story, if anybody's interested in buying a pristine condition with AppleCare 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro. It is the base model, but it's got AppleCare. The good news is they extended the keyboard program on this one too for 4 years. And if the keyboard does break on this one, they will replace the keyboard with the new 2019 improved keyboard, the polyurethane piece. So make me an offer, and I will get back to you on that question.
Okay. What do you think, Dave?
I'm in the same boat. I have a mid-2017 MacBook Pro, which is loaded up with all kinds of goodies.
Stuff?
And it's the maxed out model, and I'll be selling that as well. And I too have an AppleCare warranty on it until 2020, and it's got 16 gigs of RAM, Marcus. And
so does mine. It's a 15-inch.
It's 15-inch 512 gig solid state, and I will be buying the new model because I'm due for a replacement. Yes, I'm excited to have that keyboard warranty in place, so you'll be covered as well on the 17. And make me an offer as well.
Cool.
Except his doesn't get the new super new keyboard membrane.
Mine the 17, does. If needed, they will replace it.
They'll replace it with the same one. Guy, we're selling here. Just hold on.
No. This is not the Mac to the Future buy and go show. Right.
Right.
So, talking about the Butterfly keyboards, previous 2018 model Butterfly keyboard, if found to be defective, will be repaired at no cost. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, a lot
about
of people
time.
It's about time, but a lot of people are saying, "Come on, Apple, redesign the damn keyboard." A lot of people aren't happy about it. I know Joanna Stern, of course, was talking about it because she did her famous article with the missing letters that you could turn on and off while she was typing. And I believe she was talking to some of the folks at Apple about this, and still, so far, all Apple's doing is just going to replace the keyboard, and that's it. We'll see where it goes. I'm hoping this 2019 keyboard is better. We'll see, but hard to say.
And just to clarify, Guy, by the way, the 2015 MacBook, the 16 and 17 models already had the 4-year extension in place. This is just they just added the 2018 models.
What about the earlier ones?
The 17. I have the 17.
The 2017 and 16 MacBooks and MacBook Pros already had this 4-year extension in place.
Okay, so why didn't the 2018 ones do that? Have that?
They just added that, because the 2018s, A, are new, and B, weren't supposed to exhibit the same behavior. Yeah. So, but still, they just added the 2018s to this 4-year extension program yesterday.
Okay.
Or 2 days ago.
All right.
So, and the 2018s, it's supposed to take a day. If you have a 2015, 16, or 17, you're covered for 4 years after the purchase date, and you get the same keyboard as you had. The 2018 Air and Pro, they will give you, supposedly, if it breaks, the parts from the 2019 model, which has the new parts in it.
So they're swappable. You can swap out the older one for the newer one. Okay.
On the 18th on the 18 and 19s are.
Okay. Next. Apple made an informal bid for Tesla in 2013, offering $240 a share. Now, does this say that maybe they are a lot more serious about making a car than previously thought? What do you think, Warren?
I thought they should have done it. They should have actually taken it. I'm not shocked. It seemed like that would be a good matching for them.
You think it's too late now?
I think it's probably better that they didn't. For Apple, I think they'll have a better shot being successful with something that they build from either ground up or start with a
assuming that they actually do.
Car. Yeah, assuming that they do, but I think they dodged a bullet by not going there because Tesla's had some issues financially
little bit
of issues with their crazy their crazy leader, and so they're probably better off without it.
He should have bought into the Alliance of American Football. Okay.
He should have. Yeah.
Should have, but didn't. David, what do you think? I had to go there.
Tesla is, I think people are starting to lose interest in these cars because there's so many different electric cars out there now. Maybe Apple is okay that they didn't do it now at this point because, like you said, their fearless leader is a mismanager when it comes to managing that company. So who knows where it's going to go?
Cool.
Yeah, their repairs are getting to be more of a problem, and parts are being harder to come by, and so I think Tesla's could be in trouble.
Okay. Next, I almost was very hesitant to put this. Would a Facebook-like social media service from Apple, with an emphasis on privacy and not geared exclusively to Apple users, make any headway in your opinions, David?
Oh gosh, Apple having an actual social media service with an emphasis on privacy. If Apple was smart, they'd stay out of the social media business. I just don't see it. I mean, Facebook and Twitter and all the other social medias out there, I think, are just they're more into this. Why does Apple want to get into this stuff? They got enough going on.
Okay, Warren.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they couldn't charge for it because people are cheap and they don't want to pay anything. And if they're extending it out to non-Apple people, then what really are they? Why would they even do it? What's the reasoning that they would even do it?
Well, in my opinion, it could be used as a way to get people interested in, especially if you offer it for free, get people interested in Apple services, get them interested in Apple hardware beyond just maybe even an iPhone or EarPods or AirPods or whatever it is that they may have. But I think the biggest problem for this is that it's not like Apple hasn't tried to make social media services before, and in each case, it was a miserable failure. You know, but the problem is Ping had such a narrow definition as to what it was trying to do that I think it was pretty much doomed from the start. And when you look at their last kind of more serious effort, which was, what was that called? Not eWorld. It was the .Mac. .Mac, I think, was kind of an effort to create a social presence, and I think that it was completely mishandled. And the fact that it was Apple only, especially in the days before Apple didn't have the presence that it does now, just meant that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Okay.
The real, just real quick, the real problem with established companies creating a social network is they're all evil in the perception of people at this point. So, you know, anything, Facebook, any of the big companies are basically, they're already stigmatized as being evil in some kind of way, whether it's taking your money from Apple or privacy or whatever. So if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be a no name that's going to come back up, and people will, not know anything about it, and then I'll make something out of it. But I don't think anybody, we like our Apple, but there's a lot of people that don't, and a lot of people that are upset with their prices or upset with some of the products they put out, and they'll not use it because of that reason.
Okay, last thing before we get into the main topics of the evening. WWDC to take place on June 3rd with the keynote in San Jose. Is there anything in particular other than obviously new versions of iOS and the Mac OS that you think is going to happen, that's going to take place? Let's start with Warren. How you doing there, sir? What are you looking for? Can you move your camera down a little bit and get yourself up a little higher? Yeah, there we go. Much better. Well, except now we lost your head. Yes. Ah!
It won't stay. It's a tablet.
Okay, that's better.
Anyhow, I'll just hold my finger here while you see my head.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And be careful which finger, please.
Anyhow, no, I'm not expecting any hardware. I'm always excited for the new software. It's always fun. I'm sure everybody and their mother is hoping that they'll show something about the new Mac Pro, and that's the only thing that people are, I think, hoping for at this point.
Okay, what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I agree with the Mac Pro potential. I mean, that's been over a year since they've been making announcements. But this is not something that Apple announces most of the time as hardware. I was actually surprised that they announced the upgrades to MacBook Pros before the WWDC. So definitely don't see anything in that line. I know a lot of rumors about iPhone 11, seeing where that's going to be, but I tend to doubt that's going to happen either. I think it's a software show. I just don't see any big announcements with hardware at all.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping, and my hopes I think are going to be dashed, that they would make an announcement along the lines of where they were going with microprocessors going forward. I still think that the Mac is going to move over to ARM, but with the relatively new iMac that was just released, and now new 13 and 15-inch MacBook Pros, all with 6 and 8 core i9s, I really don't think that this would be when they would do it. I just don't think that back when they were so long in the tooth with updates for both the iMac and the Mac Mini, that was when I was kind of hoping. Oh, shut up with the ball cap. Yeah, I'm bald. Leave me alone, Marcus.
The bald cap.
Damn you, Marcus. That was when I was really hoping that they were going to make an announcement along those lines. But when they didn't, and now other than the Mac Pro, pretty much everything has been updated. I'm guessing that if they make any kind of announcement along these lines, we're looking at 2020 or 2021. So that's pretty much it. Okay, let's talk about.
They would throw people into a panic though if they.
Well, this isn't the first time that they've done this. I mean, they've changed processors now. What, 1, 2, 3 times for the Mac?
I'm sure
they went from the Motorola 68Ks to PowerPC to Intel.
But to announce it during WWDC and not be that close to doing it, people would start to panic. Developers will start to panic. Hardware people. Intel will start to panic. Everybody will start to panic.
Well, I don't think Apple really gives a crap about whether or not Intel cares, or whether what Intel would say or what Intel would do, because
they do if they're stocking them with their stuff until they're
Intel is in the business to sell chips, and they're going to sell Apple as many chips as they want for as long as they can. And whether or not Apple is moving the Mac to ARM and at some point in the future will stop using Intel chips, wouldn't stop Intel from selling them chips. That's just what I think. Anyway, let's move on. We have a couple of main stories here. The quick takes took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. First one, this was a story I saw in Tom's Guide. Will the Huawei ban hurt Apple? And then when I first saw this, I was like, what? What are you even talking about? Well, Huawei gets banned for reasons and can no longer legally receive support from Google for Android. So does this hurt Android with so many other companies that make Android phones? And how, according to the article, does it hurt Apple? Well, actually, the first question should really be, who does it benefit? Obviously, other Android and Windows PC makers that competed against them. Other American companies that sell Huawei supporting materials like Corning for glass or Intel for processors will lose out, as products made by license to Huawei in China won't be able to legally sell their products outside of China to Huawei. According to sources in the article, China could forbid Apple products from being sold in China in a tit-for-tat move, or even forbid Chinese companies from manufacturing Apple products. However, that likely would be cutting off your nose to spite your face, with the external sources of revenue down due to Huawei having difficulty in selling in arguably the biggest market outside of China. Dave, what do you think?
Well, first off, I thought there was some discussion that that Trump removed all the tariffs from. Yeah, see, it's at the top of this article. They granted a 90-day license for phone companies and internet providers to work with Huawei, and
Yeah, wow.
exempt that allows Google to send software updates to Huawei through August 19th. So that's
Right.
at the top of the article from this morning. So that has since changed. As far as affecting Apple, I don't see it. I mean, why would it affect Apple other than the fact that they're already you're dealing with the Trump administration with the tariffs for China as it is anyway. So that's going to affect Apple because then we're going to have to pay more for these phones that are being imported back into the United States. So, but as far as what I've read and what I feel about Huawei, I don't trust them at all. I don't think they're a trustworthy company. And
Yeah, well, the next story is going to deal with that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, as far as its effect, I mean, other than Google and Qualcomm, Intel, Microsoft, and even Corning, all those companies will be affected if Huawei doesn't use a lot of their products in there. Google obviously did it only because originally it was because of the government. I mean, and saying that the government had to do something to not trust who knows what Huawei is putting in their devices. That could be spying us. We don't know.
Okay.
But as far as Apple affecting Apple, I don't think it is.
All right, Warren.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the same thing. I don't think it's going to affect Apple in that sense. I mean, the only thing that's going to really affect Apple is whether the tariffs go up because of it. And that,
Yeah.
I do think, from a competition standpoint, there's, could there be some people who will buy an iPhone because they can't get a Huawei phone here in the U.S.? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think substantially it won't be that substantial, but I think Apple should keep a close eye on what's going on, but I don't think they should worry about it.
Well, the thing that has me wondering what Apple is worrying or not worried about is that we are now in the start of the huge buildup for making iPhones to get them ready to be sold, the iPhone 11 or whatever it's going to be called, in the September, October, November timeframe. And if suddenly China says, okay, you know what, all of these companies that are assembling iPhones, you're going to stop because we said so. And that's the power that the Chinese government has over manufacturing in China. Now, to suddenly put hundreds of thousands of people out of work, because I think it's something like 400,000 people in some of these plants at one time, during a time period when there are less products being made in China that are coming over to the United States due to increased costs from the tariffs. And again, let me stress that it's not Chinese companies that are paying this extra money to get Chinese products to the United States. It's the companies that are importing the products that have to pay the tariffs. And then in turn, of course, we as consumers end up paying more for these products. But if China in kind of a tit for tat move against the Trump administration in the United States decides that, okay, we're just going to shut down all of Apple's production, that could have a devastating effect on Apple. I mean, you can't just pick up and move manufacturing like that at the drop of a hat.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. All right.
Not
This
in my
is
head.
kind of this is kind of a continuation. Is Huawei spying on their customers for the Chinese government? This was a story out of Wired. Wired has a story about reactions to the U.S. government's ban on Huawei and its products is surprisingly or unsurprisingly going pretty much along political lines. The U.S. claims that Huawei has built backdoors into their software and their hardware for gathering information not just on their own citizens, but purchasers outside of China too. A report from 2012, which of course was long before the current administration, stated that potentially Huawei, is it Huawei?
Wow.
Dave? Huawei. That Huawei's products could be used against American interests. A report from the UK, however, concluded that the product isn't necessarily one of intent, but of sloppy code implemented in their products that could create security risks that anyone could exploit, which isn't really much better. However, and I found this kind of interesting, an audit of the code leaving Huawei's factories, that this was part of what contributed to the UK report. They even stated that they couldn't be sure that the code they were reviewing was the same code that was being shipped in the products. I think, Dave, you hit it pretty much right on the head, saying that, this is a company you just don't trust.
I don't trust this. This article even emphasizes that even more. I just don't see how I could trust this company. Who knows what?
And this is from a report from 7 years ago.
Right. It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, if the Trump administration saw a potential issue with this company, they wouldn't have done this. So originally, I mean, they're giving them a benefit of the doubt for now, but hard to say what's going to happen. I would not buy their products. I mean, I've bought other Android type products in the past, and no, this is not going to be one of them.
Okay, Warren.
Yeah, they're sneaky. They're a sneaky bunch.
Careful.
They're
Let's
sneaky.
not get into stereotypes here, Mr. Man.
I think they have problems now. I think they got big problems with themselves. I think there's a lot of people saying they're not going to give them software and parts, and that's kind of what they need to survive. So that's going to be a problem.
Well, they don't really have it. I mean, companies like Google and Corning and Intel and the ARM consortium, if they're on the ban list, or if Huawei is on the ban list for receiving support from these companies, there's really not much that those companies can do. You know, these are American companies, so they have to follow American rules.
Right, but that's gonna kill them. That's gonna kill Huawei if they can't get that stuff. They got to redesign their business. I read an article that said they might, instead of the Google store, they're either going to develop their own. Instead of Google, they're going to Android. They're going to develop a new.
They're going to fork it like Amazon did.
Yeah, well, sort of, kind of. When
they're pretty much doing that anyway.
They're going to get something called Aptoid, which they might get that. Aptoid, I reviewed this projector for MyMac, and I
heard of that site.
So it was before they got the Play Store or the Android store on it. So they had this Aptoid store that this place is getting. And when I say it's the biggest jungle of junk that I've ever seen on an app store, it's scary if they do that, because that had more spyware, malware, things like that. All their top items were basically how to get were apps to get illegal videos. Everything was like how to pirate movies, basically. So it's not a good thing for them if they have to resort to something like that. They're gonna go away.
Yeah, I can't see a lot of people wanting their products if they could get products that were still being blessed by Google for Android or
Windows. They have Windows laptops.
Microsoft.
They have Windows laptops. They have Windows laptops that look exactly like Macs. They're purposely, and they're called MateBook and MateBook Pro.
Have either one of you ever heard of the Red Star OS?
Yes, that's a Chinese version.
No, it's not Chinese.
Japanese.
No, North Korean.
Korean. I don't know.
It's a Linux variant that was created to look a lot like the Mac OS.
Right.
And it does. It looks a lot like. It doesn't necessarily completely operate like the Mac OS, but yeah. So North Korea, who obviously is also under huge restrictions from the American government and can't get access to a lot of technology, basically just kind of thumbed their, and again, I mean, it's not like China isn't known for their stringent adherence to intellectual property law. So there's really nothing that's keeping them from saying, you know what, we're just going to put Windows and we're going to put Android and whatever version we want on products that are going to be sold exclusively in China. And there's really not much that other countries or other companies can do about it. So there's a happy note. All right, last story for the evening. Apple sued by everyone and their little dog too. This is a story from the BBC. The estate of Harold Arlen, composer of the iconic song Over the Rainbow, sung by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz, is suing Apple and many other companies for piracy and copyright infringement. The lawsuit claims that Apple and others knowingly conspired to sell less expensive copies of popular songs, costing the estate millions of dollars. In a statement, the lawyers said, and there's so much wrong with this statement, it's hard to imagine that a person walking into Tower Records off the street with arms full of CDs and vinyl records and claiming to be the record label for Frank Sinatra, Louis Armstrong, and Ella Fitzgerald could succeed in having that store sell their copies directly next to the same albums released by legendary record labels Capitol, RCA, and Columbia, and at a lower price, end quote. The biggest problem with that statement is, well, number one, Tower Records no longer exists. Record stores, pretty much. No, yeah, Marcus says, what's a CD? I don't know, Marcus. What's a computer?
What's an 8-track?
What's an 8-track? I had an 8-track player. So, this Apple and all these other companies go to great lengths and spend quite a bit of money in order to have access to these huge back catalogs of music that these record companies own. And the only thing I can think of, besides the fact that this is just a cash grab, is it's interesting to me that they're not going after the copyright holders that are selling the content to Apple and all these other companies. They're going after the companies that distribute it. And to me, that's almost an automatic fail. Why would Apple and the Google Play Store and all of these other digital content distributors knowingly sell unlicensed copies of movies, TV shows, and music, knowingly do it, with the consequences being so vast and so great? So I don't know. I just can't really see this going anywhere. What do you think, Warren?
I'll ask my brother. He works for Sony, and his job is he does a lot of this, but his job is to kind of make sure he works in copyright, so he has to make sure no music that somebody's publishing sounds close to anything that's been out. But it's complicated. I mean,
yeah, it is.
In the old days, when you went to iTunes, not even iTunes, but like the early days of Pandora and Spotify, I remember if you put in a search for like an artist and a song, 9 times out of 10 they would play some cover version of it because they didn't have the license of the original
the
song.
actual original song, right?
Yeah, so it would be a cover. I'm like, what the hell is this? But that's how they were trying to get around that. This is a step further where somebody illegally, I don't know illegally, but somebody's providing Apple with a copy of a song that they don't own.
Allegedly.
Know how to allegedly. if that's true, then yeah, they gotta. I mean, they'll get in trouble for somebody. Um, I would guess. And the analogy of the record store is a good analogy, but it could be something else, not just records. I guess they're gone, but yeah, they should be punished.
Who?
The people, not Apple. Well,
But you
I
see,
don't know about Apple.
what the basically the lawsuit is saying,
Sorry.
That Apple knowingly and willfully was selling this copyright material for their own profit, which is why they're being sued along with all these other companies that distribute, not the ones that own the digital rights, but the distributors.
They're adding it to their iTunes collection, I'm guessing, or their Apple Music collection. So if that's the case, then Apple would need to they would have to investigate everybody who provides them with music that they are the legal owner of that song. And whether they should do that or not, maybe they should.
Okay.
What do you think? I think the whole process is wrong. I think what's going on is wrong, and the people who are suing are absolutely right to sue somebody. If they own the song, and people could own songs and music, and somebody out there doesn't own that song and goes to Apple and sells them that song, then that's theft, and they have a right to sue.
All right, Dave.
Well, I mean, a lot of this music should. I mean, you can't tell me that all these folks are not checking this music. I mean, they have their teams of people checking to see if these types of songs are indeed legitimate. So I mean, you can go back to the days of Napster. You can go back to the days of when people were sharing music. I mean, music has always been something that's been out there, and as far as sharing goes, obviously Napster got shut down and the laws changed. I agree with Warren. I think these guys have every right to sue to stop these types of copies are out there. But if that's the case, then in the case of Apple, then they need to be compliant and take the music down if that's the case. But they've got their team of lawyers and they got their team of people they're checking these songs, I would think. And then I kind of see this as kind of a frivolous lawsuit. I mean, tell them to take it down, and then that's the end of it. But then again, I see why they want to capture a lot of this money. The estate wants to, again, this song was from 1939. It's a long time since that song's been published. So
I'm sure that this will be cleared up as quickly and easily as most of these other lawsuits against Apple.
I would guarantee that.
Yeah. And Marcus says, like the original Napster and Metallica. Well, Metallica was like one of the last major bands to join the digital divide. But I think that is going to about do it for this evening. I don't have all of the punch cards that I had in the past. Like I said, this is a brand new Memo session that I put together pretty much when I got home from work today, though I have been kind of playing around with some different ways to do things. And so far, this is the way I'm doing it now is much easier and seems to be a lot more stable than what I was doing in the past. So I'm pretty happy with it. I will certainly refine it, and we will see if I make it better or worse next week. Warren, if people wanted to send you something down there in Guatemala, how would they do it?
Put up my little thing that says "Do not bother me in Guatemala."
Well, I don't have that. I don't. Well, oh, the lower third. Here it is.
Yes. All right. Leave me none of your Guatemalan business. That's how you get hold of me.
You just can't. Right. You can't do it.
I'm nowhere. I'm like John.
Ever.
Wick. You never saw me.
Dave, what about you?
Well, you can find me on my podcast, In Touch with iOS, at intouchwithios.com. And there it is right there. And then also my other podcast, Off the Charts Horse Racing, at offthechartshorseracing.com. We talk about picking some winners of horses. For that, that's non-tech. And you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks for having me.
And you can reach me or find me over on the MyMac.com podcast. Gaz and I will be back for the first time in like 3 weeks, I think. I wasn't on last week, and he wasn't on the 2 weeks before then. I also, besides, of course, the Mac to the Future Go livecast, it's been about 2 months, but I also do Guy's Daily Drive, which I'm sure people are just clamoring for me to start doing those again. Yeah. If you would like to send me email, you can send it to guy@mymac.com. You can also find me on the Twitters, either under the Twitter handle of MacParrot or Vert Shark. And I am investigating ways to see if I could do this live cast directly to a page over there in the Vert Shark website. vertshark.com. Haven't done anything like that before, so I just got to figure out how to do a redirect over to there. If anybody has a little bit of experience in doing that kind of thing, I would appreciate any knowledge or help you could send my way. If you'd like to help support the things that I do, I have a Patreon page, and I also have a Coffee page, ko-fi.com. They are both under the name Mac Parrot, or you could look for it under my name as well. Anything you can do to help me pay for all of this stuff that I do would be greatly appreciated. And I think, with that being said, that is going to about do it. Let's see. Marcus says he's been emailing Guy at mymac.com probably for years. WTF. I don't know if I've ever gotten it from you, Marcus. As a matter of fact, while we're speaking right now, send me one, and once we finish the show, I will open up my email client, and I will see where it is. Maybe it got thrown into spam or something. I don't know, but it certainly has been working okay for me. If it doesn't work, then I will have to figure out something else. But please join us next week. Hopefully, David and Warren will be on again. And it'll be show 101. And 101. We will see you all next week right here on the Mac to the Future Go livecast. Say goodnight, Warren.
Good night, everybody.
Dave?
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yeah.